Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new video. In today's video, we are going to be ranking every single Dexter main antagonist from the show and the books and the comic runs on this tier list, based off of my personal opinion on how well written they are, how much I personally liked them. However, we will not be ranking the villain from the first book because we already have Brian up there on the screen. Now without further ado, let's get started. First up on the list, we have Lila Turney or Lila West. Now Lila is an extremely interesting character. She's the only main villain that happens to be a woman, and because of that she adds other layers to the story that we couldn't have with other characters, such as a love triangle, emotional manipulation through sex, vulnerability and destruction of Dexter's relationship with Rita. She also causes a rift between Dexter and Deb, and helps Dexter deal with the fact that his killing is in fact an addiction, which bonds them together further. And with Doakes up Dexter's ass this entire season as well, he has a lot going on. Her story obviously ends up with her attempting to kill Rita's children, and then killing Doakes by blowing him up, with her demise coming at the hands of Dexter overseas. She's a strong starter, and for that reason, I think Lila goes in the B tier. Next up, we have James Doakes, who I actually struggled with putting on this list, because he's not inherently a villain, but he is a primary antagonist through Season 1 and Season 2, and I feel like that qualifies him to be a part of this list. Now, if you personally wouldn't have him on your list, because like I said, he's not really a villain at all, that's fine as well, but if we're going to be ranking Doakes as an antagonist to Dexter, and as a character as a whole on his own, there's absolutely no doubt that he's going straight to S tier. Next up, we have Travis Marshall. Now this is a character that I don't particularly care for. I'm gonna be completely blunt. I didn't care for the Doomsday Killer or the Doomsday gimmick. Maybe I'm just a little jaded from how ass that season was. I'm looking directly at you, Deb, and the brotherly love plot. But no man, Travis wasn't intimidating. The acting wasn't amazing either, no offense. The twist was predictable, and I believe I've said this in a past video, but in a show chock full of memorable characters, villains, killers, Travis Marshall does not hold up to any of them really in comparison, and falls very low on this tier list, locking him in at D tier. Next up, we have Brandon Weiss, first book killer of this video. Now he's alright, a very passable, okay, middle of the road killer. I likened him to the character Muse from the Daredevil comics, as seen in this video. Go watch those by the way if you have not. But Brandon used his killings to set up twisted art projects, which in theory sounds like a very cool, interesting plotline. But like the majority of villains in the books, Brandon suffers from the lack of character exploration beyond very shallow motivations, such as getting fired from his job at the tourist board. However, he is one of the book's strongest antagonists, which goes to say a little bit about them. But nonetheless, Brandon sits at a solid C tier. Next up, we have Brian Moser, aka the Ice Truck Killer. Now this may be a personal bias due to the fact that he's my favorite Dexter villain, but without Brian and that first season, Dexter would have never had the success it would go on to have. Normally the secret brother trope can come off as a bit hammy and eye-roll inducing, but the fact that Dexter couldn't remember who Brian was due to an extremely traumatic experience with their mother makes it a hell of a lot better than the typical soap opera evil brother you've never met or heard of trope. Brian is a brutal, psychopathic killer who can also charm and has much more social awareness than Dexter, which makes him so much more dangerous. He could have killed Dexter at any point in season 1 and only died because he wanted that relationship with his brother. He's one of the scariest and most well-written characters on the show, period. Easy S tier for me. Next up, we have arguably the most forgettable villain in the franchise, the Skinner, a character that was completely overshadowed by Miguel and not a character I'm particularly interested in spending too much time talking about. Even as a big fan of the show and franchise as I am, I still sometimes forget about this character. I get that it was meant to start off like, look, a brand new serial killer for Dexter to track down with a messed up way of killing, but then over the course of Dexter's friendship with Miguel, show that he was the true big bad the entire time, and that's fine, it worked really well for the season, at the cost of the Skinner character being forgettable besides screwing with one of Deb's boyfriends. So for that reason, I'm sitting Skinner at D tier. Next up, we have the Trinity Killer, aka Arthur Mitchell. Now obviously Trinity is a huge fan favorite within the community, and without a doubt one of the best characters of the entire show. He's such a complex character that at moments you may catch yourself giving him slight glimpses of sympathy due to just how messed up in the head he is and his childhood. But then you're quickly reminded that this monster is as deplorable as they come, not to mention being behind the most heartbreaking plot twist in the show. I don't think there's a Dexter fan alive that can discredit the Trinity Killer as one of the best killers in the show's history. So for that reason, just like the Ice Truck Killer, he sits firmly in S. Next up, we have Bernard the Shadow from Double Dexter. Now, this is actually one of my favorite villains from the books, because he actually gets some backstory written into the story and just feels far more fleshed out than the majority of the other villains. We know the inception of his evil, seeing Dexter kill somebody. We know the origin of his anger having to do with his wife, and because of him catching Dexter and his expertise in computers and hacking and stuff like that, he remains a very serious threat to Dexter throughout the entirety of the story. His safety and the safety of his secret life remain constantly in the balance. He feels like a genuine threat, and he possesses a certain skill set that Dexter can't even come up to par with, while also taunting him through his blog. Bernard is one of the best in the Dexter book series, and for that reason we are giving him a strong B tier. Following him, we have another character with some marital problems of his own, and that is Captain Spencer from Original Sin. Now, this character is a despicable kidnapper slash killer who took it out on children due to his wife's infidelity. And honestly, overall, he's nothing special. Although it is a pretty interesting idea to have the main bad guy be someone within the department, I think that's one of the only interesting parts of the character. He is very well acted though, I will say. And fun fact that I heard from one source, so I can absolutely not fact check this until going into post, because I'm doing this as I'm recording, but apparently that idea was thrown around for the original show, but Michael C. Hall shot it down, saying it would be too cheesy. Regardless, Captain Spencer is a clean, cool C-tier villain. Next, we have Dr. Danco from Dearly Devoted Dexter, who is by far the best villain in the books. He's insane, brutal, and has some of the most memorable ways of doing what he does out of almost anyone else in the franchise, turning his victims into human pillows. But at the same time, it's very interesting because we get more insight into Doakes and his time in Haiti and what exactly went on with his squad, and how even back then, Danco was batshit crazy, and that's why he was useful to them. Danco is a scary, clever, and extremely evil villain, and it works super well. Honestly, what follows in the books just couldn't really compare. Danco is a great, solid A-tier villain. Next up, we have the ever so creepy Jordan Chase. Now, unfortunately, Season 5 had the task of following the masterclass that was Season 4, and that also means whoever the main antagonist was had the unfortunate fate of following the Trinity Killer. And to be honest, no matter who it would have been a tall order. It's just unfortunate that Jordan Chase and the Barrel Girls gang were relatively underwhelming on their own. I think Jordan's relationship with Dexter and Lumen were interesting, and for Lumen it was heartbreaking and traumatizing, but beyond that there wasn't much that was super special. It was a group of antagonists, and that was new, and the whole picking them off revenge plot worked nicely. But there was nothing overly interesting about any of the members of the gang, and that extends to Jordan Chase. And we still have quite a few characters to go, so without spending too much time on Jordan, I think him and the Barrel Gang included sit in the C tier. Next up, we have Isaak Sirko, an absolute badass character and a breath of fresh air for the show, because while yes, he was a bad guy, by the end of the season, him and Dexter were just chopping it up like old pals, as if they weren't at each other's throats the entire season, while also dealing with mobsters and hitmen and serial killer fanboys and Dexter's new serial killer girlfriend. There was a lot going on, and Sirko was a lot of fun, and a really level-headed, likable villain with an understandable motivation, played by a wonderful actor. Rest in peace. Very solid B tier. Next up, we have Robert Chase from Dexter's Final Cut. This dude sucks. This book sucks. He's just a creepy Hollywood type that preys on vulnerable, young people like the monster he is, and it's not done subtly at all. It's just frustrating to watch the events transpire. Dexter lets everything slip right past him, and it doesn't come off as natural. It doesn't come off as in character for Dexter, and it doesn't pay off to anything satisfying. And this character can be completely forgotten in time for all I care. Genuinely couldn't care less about a character in the series. F tier villain. Now next up, we have Miguel Prado, a character that as time has passed is aging like a fine wine for me. I just continue to appreciate it so much more every time I look back on Season 3. From the moment we see the first tinge of darkness, to Dexter semi-accepting the possibility of a friend, to seeing how volatile and manipulative Miguel truly is, it's all done in a very interesting and fun way. And it all culminates to one of the most satisfying kill scenes in the entire show, because Miguel is once again trying to work that manipulative magic, but Dexter accepts that he truly is alone in all this, and finally tells him that he was was the one to kill his brother. Miguel Prado is truly underrated, A-tier character in my personal opinion. Next up, we have the Brain Surgeon, a bland, unoriginal cookie-cutter villain that stunk up an already vomit-inducing season that tried to alter a formula that didn't need altering. And while I won't go far as to say that the Brain Surgeon is an F-tier villain, although don't get me wrong, he is absolutely teetering that line, he is as flat on the bottom of D-tier as one could be. Because next up, we have the weakest antagonistic force in the history of the franchise, the trash-ass Cult of Moloch. It's so bad, the main villain is listed as Unnamed Elder. Dexter in the Dark is garbage, it's rushed, it's weird, and all of the new supernatural stuff doesn't work. It's not even weak, it's just trash. The very, very bottom of F-tier. But on a more positive note, let's move on to Leon Prater from the newest season of Dexter. He rocks so hard. Peter Dinklage did such a great job in this role, playing a character that so clearly got off to hearing other people's stories about killing, and when he eventually cracks that seal himself, it's like the purest drug he could have ever consumed. Leon always felt like an unpredictable presence, and man, he was. You never quite knew what he knew. That always kept you on the edge of your seat. I put Leon in A tier. Next up, we have the Coven, cannibal freaky vampires, the Twilight Killers. No, but in all seriousness, they were pretty good actually. Similar to a lot of the book villains, they suffer from the too little too late syndrome, where there isn't enough time to flesh out a villain because every important reveal or climactic moment happens in the last 15 pages, so you're left with like, what the fuck? And this book and its villains fell into the trap as well. However, I'll give them a small amount more credit only because the book itself was pretty good, but there truly isn't much to say about them. Like I said, not entirely fleshed out characters. C tier. Now we have Kurt Caldwell from Dexter New Blood. I think Kurt is one of the strongest parts of New Blood. His methods of killing and preserving his kills are horrific and twisted. He's extremely intelligent, and he posed a huge threat to Dexter's son Harrison, also being able to emotionally manipulate him quite easily. Kurt was evil, sick, and twisted, and that lands him at a solid B tier on this list. Now finally we have Raul, a generic, bland cartel guy. Really underwhelming villain for the final book, and the weakest part of the finale. He has no connection to Dexter, all of his connection is through Brian, and we get maybe 4 pages explaining why he has a beef with him. It's super disappointing, and it's just a really bad character. D tier. Now I'm gonna be honest, I forgot to put the comic villains into the video when I initially recorded it, so I'll just slide these guys in at the end. Steve Gonzalez from the first run is a super evil James Bond kind of villain with a super secret labor island, so I'll slap him at B real quickly, and Grigsby I'll slide you in at a cool C tier. Nothing too important or interesting about this sack of shit. That does it for the ranking. Now thank you everybody for watching the video. It was super fun to make, and I hope you guys have a phenomenal rest of your day, and I'll see you guys next time with some Breaking Bad stuff, another tier list maybe. Like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much. Bye now.